Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. Tonight I'm going to be doing another movie review. This is a horror film from the UK, English language, released in the year 2006, directed by Michael J. Bassett, and this film is called Wilderness. Follows a very simplistic plot, so here goes. A group of young offenders are delivered to an island for a week of character-building exercises after one of their fellow inmates commits suicide. It all goes horribly wrong when they realise that there's someone else on the island who has a pack of dogs and a crossbow with which to hunt them down. So the movie centres around a group of juvenile offenders serving time in a juvenile facility for various crimes, and they're bullying two other weaker inmates. Now, this select group, the relentless bullying causes one of these victims to kill himself. So the authorities are absolutely furious. No one is coming forward and taking responsibility for this, so they decide, the authorities, to punish all of these inmates involved. So the punishment is to go to a privatised island that is owned by the authorities. No one else is allowed to be on this island. They're accompanied by a well-respected guard, and they're going to be there for very hard labour, basically character-building exercises, in the hope that when they return to the detention centre, they're going to be better people. So they get there, they start their exercises, and surprise, surprise, they're not the only ones on this island. In fact, there is a psychopath with a group of dogs who are hungry for human flesh and a crossbow, and he is picking off these inmates one by one for reasons that I'm not going to go into. There's a little twist towards the end, but I'm not going to give that away. So what started off as character building turns into a fight for survival as each and every one of these characters is trying to get off the island in one piece. So if you want to know how the movie unfolds, please go out there, check it out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with a synopsis. Now, my thoughts on this film. I had a lot of expectation coming into this one. I hadn't heard too much about it. I saw it at my local shop for $8, so I thought, why not? A lot of people have praised this film for the phenomenal gore, and I was a little bit skeptical because they weren't really praising it for the storyline. It was mainly for the gore. So I had a feeling that this could have been just a gore film and nothing else. And unfortunately, that's exactly what it is. Now, slasher fans will get something out of this film. It is very British. So if you are a fan of British cinema or horror cinema, it has the typical British cinematography. Very dull, bleak, very bleak weather. A lot of people criticise England for the bad weather, and I feel that in horror films they capture that bad weather and it kind of portrays it through the screen. You can feel the weather conditions. So it's very dirty feeling, very raw and gritty. So cinematography, visual-wise, it's very well done. The setting is very good. You know, all of this it should have been a recipe for success, but I will go through the negatives a little bit later. But first, the setting. It was in the forest. I really like the idea of a psychopath hunting people in the woods. I think if it's done properly, it's one of the best settings in horror. And then the acting wasn't too bad. The juvenile offenders didn't really have too much to do. They were very cardboard cutout characters. But Sean Pertwee, who played the guard who was accompanying these offenders, he actually did a good job. I'm a really big fan of Sean Pertwee ever since I saw him in Dog Soldiers. He doesn't have a big part in this film, but when he does, when he is on screen, fans of him will appreciate that. And the gore is absolutely phenomenal. I thought there was one scene in particular that is also a negative towards the film, which I'll explain. But this scene in particular features a person with a pack of dogs, and these dogs are ripping into him. And the gore is absolutely phenomenal. It's practical effects, and it's absolutely disgusting. Now, the problem I had with that gore scene is that it's early on in the film, so it doesn't really jump to any heights. It pretty much sets a standard, and then it goes down from there as far as kills are concerned. There is no real creativity after this one. So it's kind of like this was the masterpiece in the gore, and then after that it kind of didn't live up to the expectation that it already had set. So I much would have rather that scene in particular being at the end, so it's kind of building up slowly to the shocking climax, but instead they've decided to do it early. That sets a standard, and unfortunately you'll be disappointed because towards the end there is a little bit of CGI thrown in there, but fortunately most of it is practical. So the gore is very well done, although I would have much rather see it done in a different sort of order. Now, my problem with the film is that this is just another standard slasher film. There is absolutely no character development. Now, yes, this is a fun horror film. I'm not pretending that I thought it was going to be a serious film. I went in there with the right expectations, but having said that, the typical slasher film doesn't have any, effort in the characters, and I think, why not? The film that I'm going to compare it to, now this is a horror comedy. Now this is not a comedy, but the reason I'm comparing it to it is it's a British film. It's called Severance. Now that's a fun film, but Christopher Smith went out of his way to create likable characters, very real characters, and that when bad things happen, you felt for them. You felt like you're losing a friend when they died. So that created a lot of scariness, a lot of fear, a lot of paranoia, and a lot of suspense. You didn't want to see these people hurt. Whereas in this film, they're all really bad. It's basically villains against villain. At the start of the movie, this kid who kills himself as a result of the bullying, you get resentment straight away for these characters, and you can't wait to see them die. So instead of building suspense, building a platform in which to dive off, it makes you very impatient for the gore scenes. And when the gore scenes happen, it's like, okay, next one, I want to see someone else die. And for me, a real horror film has to depict death as the worst possible situation. And in this one, considering how bad the characters are, it's the best possible situation for the viewer. So you don't fear death. Now, death, obviously for a horror film, it should be the worst thing, and you should dread having to watch it. But unfortunately, in this movie, they glamorize it too much, and, cardboard cutouts. There is no shred of decency whatsoever in these people. Now, I would have much rather it be a little bit more realistic in the fact that these offenders were young. Yes, they committed crimes, but they were very immature, ignorant, and that could have been a reason for doing this. So it could have got a little bit of decency into the characters and made them realistic, but there is no humanity in them whatsoever. It's kind of like they don't regret what's happened, and they just come across as evil. And when the hero of the film, even he was very unlikable. So that is what really killed the film for me, and as a result of that, between the horror set pieces, it really dragged, and I felt that towards the end it just went down the stereotypical cliche slasher film machine, in that you know who's going to get picked off, and you know the twist at the end, and you know how it's going to finish. How it's going to finish. So all in all, this was a bitterly disappointing film. Yes, it does have phenomenal gore, but if you want something else, you're going to be disappointed. I'm only going to give this 1.5 stars. It has great visuals, great gore, good setting, but unfortunately, that's pretty much all it had. In the end, it was all visual and nothing really underneath. So it's a shallow film, and it's only getting 1.5 stars from me. I'm sorry to the people who liked it, but I'm brutally honest, and I'm saying, yeah, this one is not coming recommended. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.